If you're in this mindset of tranquility and quiet, and then, for example, come into contact with animals, you perceive the animals more directly. It creates a more empathic relationship with the animals when you meet them in reality than meeting them only on a rational level. If you sit next to an animal, something happens. It's like sitting all alone feels different from sitting together in a group. And when we went into these small stables and sat there, kind of side by side with the animals, then it was as if something carried over. Some kind of energy was transmitted to us, which is simply amazing.
Die einfach sehr erstaunlich ist. Und ich habe für mich selber
I recognized it for myself, and watching other people, I see that it's often far easier for them to find their own inner peace in the presence of animals.
zu kommen in der Gegenwart mit diesen Tieren.
Die Tiere sind in sich nicht aufgespalten. Die sind eigentlich
The animals are not split off from themselves. Actually, they are always whole. They don't hide behind words. They can't deceive. They're always authentic. And well, they have such an inner peace.
Sie haben einfach so eine innere Stille. Und wenn wir uns da...
And when we become aware of that, and when we get in touch with them within this peace, then we ourselves become peaceful too.
Dann wird es auch in uns ruhig.
Die Lebewesen, die fühlenden Lebewesen, die streben alle nach Glück und wollen Leid meiden. Das sieht man.
Living beings, all sentient living beings, strive for happiness and try to avoid suffering. It's the same with animals.
Unglaubliches Geschick, sich immer den besten.
If I think of my cat, she always manages to find the best place, whether in the sun, when the sun shines, or in the shade, when it's too hot, or on the bed. Well, on the cover of the bed. Actually, she's not allowed right into the bed, but she may lie on the duvet. And when she lies there, and if you watch her, then you get the feeling that she expresses utter bliss. And then there are people who deny altogether that animals have feelings. How can that be? Oh yes, the animals want happiness. They want to be free from suffering. And for me, that's a central point for general human ethics as well.
Im Buddhismus sagen wir ja,
in Buddhism, we say, well, we put the words into the Buddha's mouth, that his teachings have one core message, and that is to overcome suffering.
Das ist Sinn und Zweck letztlich unsere.
This is the aim of all our endeavors, of our practicing, of our meditation, to overcome suffering. And to overcome suffering is the central concern of every kind of animal welfare too. We include not only ourselves and our own species, but in Buddhism we explicitly include all sentient beings in the sphere of our compassion.
In den Kreis unseres Mitgefühls mit ein.
Mir kommt vor, das ist eben auch, hängt auch mit dem zusammen, dass wir Menschen so herausgefallen sind.
It seems to me that it was all caused by humans separating from creation. In the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, a situation is described called paradise.
Und es ist dort beschrieben als...
And as the story goes, at that time, people were still connected to their divine origin, and they treated animals as their brothers and sisters. They gave them names. They were able to communicate with them. And then it happened that the humans suddenly no longer felt part of that divine world. As the only creature that was no longer protected within God's creation, the connection to the animals was lost. The bond was broken.
Da ist auch diese Verbindung zu den Tieren verloren gegangen. Es war keine Verbindung mehr da. Und je mehr wir Menschen uns trennen von diesem Seinsgrund.
And the more we humans separated ourselves from the ground of existence, which makes us feel safe and carries us, and because the connection is lost, it causes us humans to inflict such unbearable suffering on animals.
Dass wir ihnen unglaublich viel Leid verursachen.
And then humans invented industrial factories for animals, and finally, no thought is given to what the other is feeling, is experiencing.
Most people have never had the opportunity to look into the eyes of a pig. The pigs are all hidden from sight. Here in the Swiss canton of Lucerne, for example, there are more pigs than people. About 440,000 pigs and about 330,000 people. Why don't we ever see a pig in Lucerne? You have to search for them. And if you manage to find some, somewhere in a small confined concrete outdoor pen of just a few square meters, then these are already organic pigs. It's a special program. The commercially bred, the factory farmed pigs, you just never see them.
Auf der anderen Seite gibt es jetzt einen enormen, großen
There is this enormous manifestation of abuse of these animals. By abuse, I mean humans are completely preoccupied with themselves.
Dass eigentlich der Mensch zu sehr auf sich selbst bezogen ist als Spezies. Man hat es auch in Tierschutzbewegung.
Within the animal rights movement, this is called speciesism. Peter Singer and others before him used that expression.
Andere haben da diesen Ausdruck in die Waagschale geworfen. Das ist
It implies being totally centered on oneself. Everything you come across is there for you to exploit. In fact, it serves to justify everything you do. You don't have to care about anything anymore.
Sich nicht mehr kümmern. In den Meditationskursen, die ich mache, und
The meditation courses which I lead here are about arriving in another mental state.
dann meditieren wir.
On the one hand, we do regular meditation, which is inspired by Buddhist teachings. I offer an open secular form which anyone can do.
Form für alle darbiete, aber ich habe
And on the other hand, here I had the idea to meditate with animals too.
eben mit Tieren meditieren, weil an diesem Ort, das ist ein Meditation,
There is a Zen meditation center with a beautiful hall for meditation. And at the same time, there is also an animal sanctuary where they house animals that have escaped from being slaughtered and processed into meat and so on.
Tiere aufgenommen wurden, die geflüchtet sind vor Verarbeitung zu Fleisch und Poulet und so weiter. Die leben
They all live there. Chickens, goats, pigs. Not many, but a few as representatives.
wie ein Zeichen setzt. Und jeden
So every day we spend an hour or an hour and a half in silent meditation with these animals.
meditierend mit den Tieren. Damit man einfach merkt,
The idea is to experience through these encounters.
gewesen, das ist etwas
These are living beings, they're precious, they are alive,
und dass man
and you can rediscover many things that have perhaps been forgotten. The serenity and the affection, and all the things industrial farming deprives animals of.
die Industrie den Tieren abspricht.
Es ist sicher so, dass wenn man da mit den Tieren meditiert, aber natürlich auch mit den anderen.
When you meditate together with these animals, of course with other participants as well, and when we are all sitting there in silence in our group, you feel the animals getting quiet too.
Sie fressen natürlich, sie sind
They calm down. Of course, they keep on eating. They live their animal lives. But they're calm too, and they're with us.
Und
It creates community and peace, inner peace and outward peace. A calmness that feels good, of course. Our lives are hectic enough as it is.
Ja, genug.
Im Buddhismus, aber ich denke auch das kann
In
eine
Buddhism,
allgemeine
and I think that this is a general secular philosophical idea as well, too much preoccupation with oneself, too much self-centeredness causes suffering.
Leiden. Weil man ist nicht mehr in
You lose the connection to other beings.
mit dem anderen. Und ich glaube, diese kollektive Selbstbezogenheit
I regard this collective selfishness of mankind as being very dangerous.
ist sehr gefährlich.
Wenn wir so eine starke Barriere aufrichten, diese Tier-Mensch-Grenze.
When we construct such a strong barrier, this animal-human divide, and when we don't regard them as living beings, not as brothers or sisters, but as so-called farm animals or livestock, then humans create one place of suffering after the other for animals. Factory farming is just the worst manifestation of this.
Ist schon so das schlimmste Phänomen davon.
Es gibt ja viele Arten, wie wir über diese Begegnungen und mit den Tieren meditieren.
There are many ways to reflect on our encounters with animals, how to experience these moments, what we feel, how we feel addressed, and how we can connect with the animal world.
Tierwelt. Und die nächste Meditation, die wird
In our next meditation, I will show you a picture. I will give it to you, and at first you concentrate on it for a while,
Periode der Konzentration.
and afterwards concentrate on yourself and on the feelings that come up.
Dann betrachten,
And then you can experience what your reactions are from looking at the picture.
was für Reaktionen entstehen. Wenn ihr das Bild seht, ganz gut, wenn die
It would be good if there was some resonance on the level of your body, on the level of your feelings. Of course, thoughts may naturally come up.
Gedanken.
They're sticking their noses together.
They're holding on to each other. They're protecting each other.
Das sind beides
Both are animals, a baby tiger and an orangutan. It's a young orangutan, and both have been rejected by their parents.
von ihren Eltern nicht angenommen.
Also mich hat einfach die Verbundenheit dieser Tiere sehr berührt.
I was deeply touched by the bond between these animals, the feeling that they're there for each other, and also that they're missing something.
Vermissen. Und ich denke,
The longer I looked at that picture, the more insignificant the difference between me and these animals became.
Wahrscheinlich habe ich einfach zu
Perhaps I just know too much about these things. A baby orangutan should be in the arms of an orangutan mother. I don't know their history. Maybe there was an accident. Oh no, they've been rejected. And that's almost... Well, it happens in the wilderness too. But it very often happens in captivity. Mothers not wanting their children to lead such a life. And then they sometimes kill the babies or reject them.
Ja, mir ist beim Anblick dieses Bildes gleich gegangen, dass
It occurred to me right away when I looked at that picture. It became clear. The divide between animals and humans is totally fictitious, isn't it? In all the things that matter, those things which are necessary and sincere, we're all the same, humans and animals.
Mensch und Tier. Und dann ist mir zusätzlich noch eingefallen.
And then it occurred to me that the little lamb which accompanied us is one of those animals too.
Ist ja auch so eins.
It too was rejected by its mother. And in his case too, you immediately feel compassion and you are sorry that the little lamb had to suffer that.
Gefühl und es tut einem leid, dass es dem Lämmchen so gegangen ist. Aber wenn man es noch weiter
And if you
ausweitet,
extend the thought, then you become aware of the fact that the whole dairy industry exists based on the act of taking the calves away from their mothers, because people want to drink the milk produced by the cow for her baby. Vanya once told us, didn't you, Vanya, that among all the species on this planet, we are the only one that continues to drink milk into adulthood. And normally, you're not aware of that cruelty happening here among us.
so bewusst, dass es hier auch bei uns ist.
Mir sind bei diesem Bild zuerst diese...
The first thing I noticed in this picture was the sad expression in the monkey's eyes. It touched me. And then these little fingers.
Und ich hab's...
Although they're only baby animals, I didn't connect it to children only, or to the relationship between mother and child. I didn't know that before. I found the situation, the hug, so comforting. I felt it somehow, the need to stick together in difficult times.
In Schwierigkeiten.
The topic of the refugees, which is so pressing at the moment, occurred to me too. And I thought how wonderful it would be if all of us, even if we are different, and even less different than monkeys and tigers, if we all could have that attitude.
Ich denke, das Bild kann berühren und dann führt es natürlich zum Denken.
I think this picture can really touch us. And it makes you think, reflect about the fate of animals and about our relationship to animals.
Ich denke, so kann uns auch daran erinnern, dass wir wirklich diese Liebe.
And I think it can remind us to accept our love for animals more, so that animals are not regarded as a commodity by us, but instead are given the possibility to live their own lives.
Ihr eigenes Leben zu leben.
Ja, wenn man einfach so Tier begegnet, dann ist es mehr ein Jö und ein Streicheln.
If you just meet the animals normally, it's like, aww, and petting them. But when you meditate with them, you get in touch with the animals on an emotional level.
Emotionalen Ebene, also es kommt vielleicht vorbei.
Maybe the animal comes closer or hesitates to come out of the stable. They show the same emotions, which we ourselves know from our daily lives.
Eigentlich immer sehr schnell ist man
Quickly, you go from the emotions of animals to the emotions people have. Obstacles we meet too. In that way, quite naturally, there is a connection.
Und von dem her ist sehr schnell eine Verbundenheit da.
Wie wir die Tiere behandeln.
The way we treat animals, we treat people too. If we don't regard animals as living beings, then sooner or later we'll not regard fellow humans as living beings anymore either, but only as objects.
Als Objekte. Und ich denke, nicht, das ist ein Spiegel von unserer inneren Verfassung, wie wir mit uns
I think it's a mirror of our own inner condition, how we treat ourselves as individuals.
Also wir haben ähnlichen Druck, wie wir auch
In other
mit
words,
Tieren machen.
we put ourselves under the same pressure we submit animals to,
Das verpassen.
and we miss granting ourselves space and creative freedom, which is crucial too.
Geben, die eben sehr wesentlich wären. Und hier bin ich eben auf das Thema des Innentiers.
And in this context, I came up with the idea of the inner animal.
Eigentlich diese Entdeckung des
The discovery of the inner animal comes from dreams, my own dreams, but also dreams of patients with whom I've worked with as a therapist.
Und da kann man eben feststellen, dass je nachdem,
And the animals in these dreams, they don't feel well. They don't have enough space to live in, are injured or angry, or they initiate an invasion.
dass sie zu wenig Platz haben, dass sie verletzt sind oder dass sie wütend auftreten, eine Invasion veranstalten. Da denke ich, gibt es ein
I think there is a relationship between their well-being and the way animals are treated in the dreams, or in the sandplay images created by patients, and with what takes place in the outer world.
passiert.
Am 1. März auch von diesem Jahr.
On the first day of March this year, in my dream, I was walking from the village square up here. There were no houses, only fields and a path. Behind me, I heard people coming, but I wasn't interested in them at all because in front of me, there was a group of elephants. They were boisterous, laughing and playing and sliding down the hill on their bottoms.
Und dachte, ja, jetzt muss ich schauen, dass ich da etwas
And I looked at them and thought, I have to move to the side to avoid a collision. And with one elephant, I had eye contact. Again, it was his expression, his eyes. I felt connected to him, and he led me to one side so the other elephant could pass by me, still playing the whole time. And the people behind me couldn't possibly know that I had a deep connection to this elephant. It was like, oh.
Das ist so, ah.
Weil diese Tiere, die symbolisieren vitale, auch ganz andere Anteile in uns als
These animals stand for completely different parts of us than our normal consciousness, and probably they represent layers that connect us through evolution with the animals.
so näher uns noch mit den Tieren verbinden.
Because we're not just human beings and different from animals. There are so many animal features in us which are vital for survival. For example, the mechanisms of fight, flight, or freeze.
Nahrungsmechanismen, die findet man schon in der
These have always been part of the animal world, as well as the ability to build relationships, which has evolved in mammals over the ages, other than in reptiles, for example. On the whole, we have a lot of animal in us.
Also wir haben eigentlich sehr viel Tier in uns. Und wenn wir nur zulassen, nicht, also in der Meditation das spontan
When we allow an image of an animal to come up within us during a meditation, it can be fascinating to discover which animal comes to mind
heißt und dann vor allem zu schauen, wie es
and to check how the animal is doing.
machen.
Let's do that now.
Sehr gut, wenn ihr euch zunächst einfach in euren Körper hineinfallen
It would be good at the start if you let yourself drop into your bodies.
Empfindungen wahrnehmt.
Experience the emotions which are there right now.
Vielleicht auch Gefühle
Maybe feelings too.
wahrnehmen.
Don't send anything away.
Was nicht,
Don't send any thought away because you think it's not suitable.
einfach gegenwärtig.
Just be aware of what is there at this very moment.
Jetzt könnt ihr aus der Ruhe, die sich vielleicht ein bisschen eingestellt hat,
And after you've relaxed a bit, let something you've seen
vielleicht auch angeregt
have maybe been influenced by in a dream.
oder irgendetwas, das ihr
Let an
gesehen habt,
animal come up.
ein Tier auftauchen lassen. Und vielleicht ist es noch
Perhaps it's a little shy and won't show itself right away.
braucht ein bisschen.
Be patient.
Dann könnt ihr sehen, wie es diesen,
And now you can see how the animal is doing.
ist es eng,
Is it in a narrow space?
ist es Platz, hat es,
Is it in a cage? Does it have enough room?
ist es gesund,
Is there food?
ist es aktiv, oder
Is it injured, healthy, active, full of life?
einfach
Whatever is going on, just look how things are.
Dann am Ende könnt ihr dem Tier das geben,
Then at the end, you can give the animal what it needs.
sei es, dass es etwas braucht,
Maybe it needs something from you.
sei es, dass es
Some
Nahrung
food,
braucht,
shelter,
sei es, dass es
space,
Schutz
a
braucht,
jungle to live in.
sei es, dass es einfach Platz braucht oder ein Urwald braucht, wo es leben kann. Und in eurer Fantasie
In your imagination, give everything to the animal that is needed.
das geben, was es eben braucht. Ihr könnt vorstellen, wie sich das
Then see if the animal changes. Does it get more lively? Is it healed?
lebendiger wird,
Is it happy because there's more room or more food which you gave it?
Platzes oder des Fressens erfreut, das ihr ihm zukommen lässt. Und spürt jetzt
And then feel the energy of the animal that comes up after having its needs satisfied.
die Bedürfnisse verwirklicht hat, die es wirklich braucht. Dann habt ihr die Gelegenheit, das Erlebte
Now you can draw your animal with pencils or oil pastels in the way you like.
und dazu passen, mit Farbstiften oder Ölkreiden auf ein Blatt zu bringen.
Ich habe von einem Papagei geträumt, kürzlich einmal.
Recently, I dreamt of a parrot, a green one. Then a snake appeared, a beautiful one, green as well, with lightly shimmering scales, with a little red and dark green. And then there was a bear. He came from the left. A happy bear, a beautiful bear.
So richtig, einfach ein schöner Bär ist gekommen. Ja.
What kind of feelings did these animals bring up for you? The bear, the parrot, the snake?
Was hat das, gibt dir das für Gefühl? Oder was erlebst
Ja, einfach Schönheit und
Beauty and love and compassion.
Liebe und also Mitgefühl und der Wunsch nach, dass sie frei sein können.
And the wish to see them free, for them to have the space they need. A snake, for example, wants quiet, to find a retreat. The bear needs a forest, needs nature. The parrot needs the sky and freedom. For me, a tiger came quite quickly, without compromise. He wanted to get out, but he was never in my dreams before. He just thrust himself onto the paper. It occurred to me that I feel a lot of wildness inside of me, which I can't give myself. I guess that will be my task, to grant myself more freedom and some ferociousness.
In der Meditation ist
Could you do that in the meditation?
Ansatzweise.
Only a bit, just a little bit.
Ich habe von gestern auf heute geträumt von einer Spinne. Und das
Last night, I dreamt of a spider, a dark, black, hairy spider.
wo Ich habe sie noch gesehen an der Wand und dann ist sie gerade verschwunden. Zwischen zwei
At first, she crawled along the wall and then she disappeared into a crack between two wooden beams.
In der Meditation ist jetzt die Spinne zu mir.
Today, during the meditation, this spider came back to me, and with one of her legs, she reached for me.
Geschnappt. Und hat mich ganz fest tief in die Augen geschaut.
She looked into my eyes and told me not to be afraid.
Sie mir gesagt, ich solle keine Angst haben vor ihr. Und sie suche die Nähe zu den Menschen.
She said she wanted to be close to people, but she said, many people scream when they see me, but she wanted to be close and to be held in my hand.
Nähe zu den Menschen haben. Und ob sie in meine Hand kommen und dann hat sie,
I couldn't say yes immediately. It cost me quite some effort.
Und dann hat sie meine Hand
But then she slept in the palm of my hand. My hand became the spider's bed.
Spinne.
She wanted that closeness.
Einfach die Nähe wollen.
Wenn man bedenkt, dass wir sehr viele eben Anteile haben.
Considering that we humans have so much in common with animals, it occurred to me that we could meditate for the sake of our inner animal.
Und sich fragen in einem
You might ask yourself during meditation, how does the inner animal feel?
was braucht es?
And then find out what else is needed.
Ist es frei und so
Is it in a confined space? Is it free? And then to give the inner animal what it needs.
Aber ich denke, durch diese
This is all on an internal level. But I think by this kind of meditation, our awareness can increase, and that will later on influence our actions.
Wir müssen eigentlich immer
In fact, we should always start with ourselves when we want to change something in the world, even if it's only on a small
Ich
scale.
denke, das ist sehr wichtig.
But I think it's important, so that in the outside world, we can find more courage and energy to develop ourselves, to bring relief to the animals that suffer so much.
Sehr viel Leiden. Also da auf der einen Seite sind wir sehr
Well, on the one side, we, at least most of us, are really fond of animals. But on the other hand, most of us completely ignore the dimension of what is happening on the scale of billions of animals.
hier eigentlich sich in der Dimension von Milliarden von Tieren abspielt. Nicht, wenn man
If you talk about industrial farming, of the keeping and processing of animals, then you must also keep in mind that about 60 billion animals are slaughtered and processed each year.
60 Milliarden Tiere, die im Jahr geschlachtet und verarbeitet werden.
Wir wissen, dass die ökologischen
We know that the environmental consequences of our exaggerated consumption of meat and dairy products are serious.
Auswirkungen sind. Also die ökologischen
The ecological consequences are enormous. Ethics, the ethical aspect, how meat and milk are being produced these days, is the second essential reason to abstain from consuming meat and milk products, or at least to reduce consumption considerably.
Und das dritte ist die Gesundheit.
And the third reason is health, our personal health.
Wenn wir den Wissenschaft
If you believe the scientific data, the less animal protein you consume, the healthier you are.
zu uns nehmen.
Ist überall unsere Gier
Everywhere, our greed for food, for meat, destroys life, destroys it needlessly. And in addition, it destroys life that wasn't meant to be destroyed.
wurde zu vernichten, Beifang
For example, if you think of bycatch, which is a huge topic in fishing.
und so weiter. Also ich glaube, da hinein
For people to realize that animals need to be regarded as living beings could be considered revolutionary.
kann eine Revolution bedeuten. Und ich denke, dass wir solche
And to me, it seems like such a bad sign that basic values are being disregarded.
ein sehr schlimmes
And it isn't just isolated incidents, as polls among workers in factory farms and slaughterhouses have shown.
Umfragen gezeigt haben unter Arbeitern in diesen Firmen. Viele der
Many people who work in the farm animal industry themselves are treated accordingly. Their salary is about €6 an hour in Germany, I think.
Arbeiter ohne Rechte.
These workers have no rights. And there was an article in the German magazine Die Zeit where these people stated that in order to work there, they cannot afford to feel anything. The smallest bit of empathy would make their work impossible.
Die Arbeit verunmöglichen. Und darum
So I think it might be a start to help people realize that these are sentient beings, which could be revolutionary.
Ansatz, Menschen hinzuführen.
People will understand that the whole system, all that is happening at present on a large scale, is not right. It's not okay.
Das sieht, dann merkt man, dass das, was jetzt in großem Maßstab passiert, nicht richtig ist, nicht mehr stimmt. Dann denke ich, es ist sehr gut.
That is why I think it would be very good if we could heal that fracture, that divide, the chasm between humans and animals. And I hope that by way of meditation and encountering animals, it would be wonderful if we could make a small contribution in this direction, together, and more, opening ourselves, becoming aware of these kinds of problems, which are there, and which have such a huge dimension.
Und große Dimensionen hat.
Ja, vor jeder Aktion vor den Tieren.
The basis for every action we take vis-à-vis animals is our attitude, the awareness that we are connected and the love for them. Everything else will follow naturally.
Zen Master Suzuki
Roshi once said that it is enough to light up even just a small corner of this world, right where you are, and that even a small light in the darkness makes a huge difference.
Hell.
And every encounter with animals changes in quality when the heart is involved, when the awareness is big enough to realize the bond between us.
Die Verbundenheit zu erkennen.